Hey, what's up, guys? Today, we're having a conversation with my boy, Sebastian. This guy, we go way back. We've been friends for about 6-7 years, and this guy is incredible at account management. I mean, absolutely incredible. He's managing currently right now, today, about 75 clients, 125 different accounts, and he's doing it with style while retaining. So without any further ado, I want to jump into a conversation with Sebas that I had just the other day to talk about how he is serving his clients at scale. All right, brother. So, guys, just so you know, Sebastian and I, how long have we known each other now? 5 years, 6 years, give or take?
Maybe on the way to 6 years, probably.
Yeah, dude. And I'm going to just set the bar here. So, when I started in the digital marketing world, I went to be a part of an amazing, huge company that was absolutely crushing it. Sebastian was one of the top guys in pay-per-click, top of guys in account management. He was absolutely crushing it. I think you were handling our biggest clients by far, right?
Yeah, for sure.
$50,000, $100,000, $200,000 budgets. You were demolishing it. And then from there, you left that company and you went to work with another huge SearchKings up in Canada, one of the fastest growing agencies around. You'll have tons of awards. You are growing like crazy. And I'm super excited about having this conversation because it's something that you always, I don't think you actually it's just a pure talent, being able to communicate with people, talk effectively, get across your points. And so I'm excited to have the conversation today about service, right? About account management, about how do we build relationships with our clients that can actually scale. So go a little bit run. I mean, you can add to your career if you want to add to what I just said, but let's just dive right in. Talk to me about your role right now at SearchKings, how many clients you're managing, and then let's talk about how you're doing that at such an effective rate.
Yeah, for sure, man. So at SearchKings, I am a senior account manager and the e-commerce lead in the ads department. I've been working for SearchKings for around 2 years already, since I left beautiful Nicaragua and moved to cold Canada. Loving it right here, by the way. But yeah, and one thing that really got my attention when I started this company was looking at the trustworthiness that they conveyed in the sense of their Google reviews. Because GC, nowadays, how do you know if a company is good or is bad? Where do you go?
Google.
And you specifically go into their reviews, right? You want to see what other people are saying. They're facing the same issues that everybody's facing. And let's be honest, everybody in the industry that needs PPC, I'm not talking about PPC managers, but companies that require PPC in order to bring their business to other people's eyes, they usually have worked with another agency in the past, right? And one of the things that they see is what experience other people are having. And going back to that, that was really what got my attention. And that's the thing that I've noticed at this company. I've noticed that they preach service, and that's really what they are about. Things like, being super responsive. Maybe you're not able to get to that email and execute right away, but, just sending a quick, I'm on it, letting the client know I'm on it. I'll take care of this in the next 24, 48 hours. I don't know, whatever time frame or time range it will take you to get that job done. That really goes a long way, right? And that has been honestly always inside of me. You spoke that, I'm used to managing big accounts, but I'm also used to managing small accounts. And I went from managing small volume, big clients portfolio, and now I'm managing combination, but mostly smaller players and bigger volume. And you might ask me, what about the service? What happens with the service when you go from 25 to, if you ask me right now, I'm managing more than 75 customers.
Wow.
Give or take, every one of them has Bing, Google Ads, and Google Local Services account if they are our home services provider. Then give or take, let's say 120, 130 accounts managing. And you could think, maybe the service goes out the window, right? When you start managing that number or that volume of clients. And yeah, that's really what I wanted to come here and talk to you. I see a lot of famous people coming here, right? And I was starting to wonder that you would never invite me,
No,
but I'm very,
this is actually a perfect conversation. We had, if you haven't listened to the podcast, we had Ron Kaufman on like 4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe. I don't remember exactly when. And he's the expert in service, levels of service, and he does this across the world. He's a New York Times bestseller. But then today we're digging into actual digital marketing, right? Like actually digital marketing, serving these clients. What are things that we can do to up the level of service, right? So 75 is a lot of clients though. Like even for me thinking about it, I'm like, dang, that's a lot of freaking emails and calls. So talk to me about maybe like logistically, all right? Because I know we're going to go into a lot of like the emotional side as well, which is huge, but like logistically, how are you serving those clients? Like how often are you actually communicating with them? Does it change by client? What are you doing from an operational standpoint?
great question. It really depends, of course, on the level of service and attention that they will require. Now, by that, I don't mean that the account is less looked at, right? It's just that some accounts, they will require more often communication than others because of the famous data, right?
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, I would say it all comes down to the onboarding / expectation setting, right? You can have a client that understands what you will accomplish in the next 30, 60, 90 days and knows where they're at and where they can be in that time frame that I just mentioned. And you don't really need to have weekly calls or even bi-weekly calls in some cases, right? If you have the right process in place, and if, of course, this all goes back into knowing the industry, knowing how the market works in that area, knowing intricacies such as cost per click, conversion rates, etc., and having best practices. But all of that is operational. It goes into the best practices. But in terms of expectation setting and telling the client how often they should expect the communication in terms of status calls, in terms of email communication, automating your reporting, making it more of a dashboard view, for example. Because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, what is the best way for you to provide information to a client or a customer so that they don't have to call you for further questions? And it's really just being transparent, right? I'm going ahead of myself right now, and I see you smiling already because you know about transparency when it comes to service.
Yep.
And this is really one of the subjects. But transparency is not just in terms of communication, it's also in terms of reporting, right? So telling your client and giving a live view instead of them expecting a report every 30 days, which raises questions. How about if you better, I don't know, give them a live dashboard that they can choose date ranges, see what leads they get, what calls they get, how good they are, how bad they are, right? That usually to me is what I've seen is completely different to what I was used to before when I used to manage
Mhm.
big clients, small volume, right? So part of that in terms of logistics, um, but yeah, I don't know if that kinds of answer the question.
So yeah, you made a point there, right? And I'm someone that normally am like over communicate, call, weekly calls if you can, as much as you can. But you made a point there, and that you don't have to, right? If you set the right expectations, right? If you say, hey, here's what we're going to accomplish in the next 30 days, we'll talk then, or so on and so forth, right? And it's very clear. And I think you said something there that you haven't already ruined the relation. You haven't already like lied, or we're not on track, or we're not. Obviously, if hey, here's what we're gonna do in 30 days, you don't hit that goal, and then you talk in 30 days, they're probably not going to want to wait another 30 days to chat, right? If we're not on track,
Absolutely.
right? But let me ask you this: do you feel talking more often gives you a higher chance, doesn't change it, or gives you a lower chance of retaining the client?
I believe doesn't change.
Okay, doesn't change it.
The
Tell me
amount of
why.
times you talk to a client, it will not change their
Mm-hmm.
decision making, whether or not they're going to stay with you. I believe. And the reason why is you can talk to a guy daily if you want, JC. And I'm sure you've had clients or I'm sorry, service providers that have serviced you, not
Yeah.
necessarily for PPC, of course, but anything that maybe they're not delivering the message,
Yeah.
right? Or maybe according to them, they're delivering the message, but you're not understanding anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? And at the end of the day, we can have 100 calls in a month, and I'm really not going to understand. And believe me, it will happen. It will happen for anybody out there that believes, and everybody's going to bombard me afterwards through LinkedIn telling me, oh, Sebastian, but you've never seen this client XYZ. And yes,
Yep.
of course, you know me and you know this industry, JC, there are outliers.
Of
There
course.
will be difficult scenarios, such as there will be difficult clients, there will be difficult account managers, right?
Yeah.
You can have both things. But
Now, I
yeah,
love this point of view. Let me ask you, do you think it changes? I mean, you and I, we've been doing this for 6-7 years, right? Number one, we can speak with a lot of authority on the subject matter. And when I say 6, you've been doing it 3 years, probably longer than I have, right? So we can speak to the subject matter really effectively, very clearly, with a lot of authority. Do you think that gives us the advantage? Do you see your brand new account managers? They just don't have the experience. Maybe they stumble a little bit in the communication. Maybe it's harder for them to project out 30 days, 40 days, whatever the case may be. Do you think they need to talk more often to the clients?
I think that they need to learn how to set an expectation the right way, and specifically, and more importantly, during their first interaction, because first impression is what counts the most, right? And
Yes.
obviously, you want to get off on the right foot with
Yes.
your new client that you're talking to. So authority has a lot to do and a lot to say in regards to that matter. Telling powerful phrases to your client in that onboarding or welcome call, however you want to call it, right? Initiation call, you put the name, saying phrases like, this is what you can expect moving forward. This is what will happen a week from now. This is how long it will take me to build this campaign. This is when you can expect us to have our next call, right?
Yeah.
Setting expectations like that. People often they put them to the side and then they just throw an email and send it to the client as a follow-up for the call. I don't really recommend that. I prefer to have all these data talks in an email and having those powerful phrases set through the phone call, so that the client knows that, he's dealing with the right guy. And this is, hear me out. This is me being how I manage my clients, 75 clients, right? And I specifically schedule all my calls with my clients, and I try to, of course, some of them call me out of the blue. I try that not to happen. That said, I am incredibly responsive through email. So bonus recommendation, please have your email added to your phone. It really goes a long way. Like I said at the beginning of the call, somebody sends an email, it doesn't mean that you cannot get to it until the next day. Just please, answer the client, let them know that you're on it. And that will give them that reassurance of, hey, maybe I don't need to call this guy because he's on top of it. You know what I mean? So I think I think it's that. And
100%.
yeah, absolutely.
And even with myself, like, I mean, and I wish all of us at Hite, I wish I could say we were on point with this as an agency, probably to the extent that you guys are. For me, I may have 3 emails in my inbox at any point in time. Ones that I like did a quick response to and I mark them unread, so I remember to respond, or maybe just I don't want to respond to Sebastian right now. I'll do it tomorrow. But like, there's never an email in my inbox where I just haven't gotten it to it yet. Like, it's always like, and that's me. I get more emails. I could argue I probably get the most emails in the organization. 75 clients. You definitely, like, there's an attention to detail there that I think that saves from so much aggravation and frustration and everything, And so I 100% agree. And it's very simple. I do a quick response if I can, like what you just said. And then I go back and mark it as unread.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And that's what really makes you be on top of it. And of course, you can have your CRM, you can have your spreadsheets, however you're following through this. But at the end of the day, those,
It's huge.
some people call it prehistorical, like marking it as red, but it really works. It really works, right? Some people can live with their inbox with 1,000 unread messages. I can't. You can't.
Yes. No.
And I really think that that's really what sets people apart, right? When it comes to that service.
I get anxiety. I looked at my wife's phone the other day. She had like 3,171 unread message, you know, the little icon. I'm like, oh my gosh, that would drive me nuts. And then like bonus pro tip, if you go to your inbox and your inbox is organized by date received, you're screwing up already. Go to settings and segment it by read, unread.
Read and unread. Absolutely, brother. You got it, man.
It's the only way to do it, right? Yeah. You mentioned something there because I want to dig into that, right? You said something about transparency, right? So we're communicating effectively. We're setting like, okay, here's our next call. And I assume all of your calls are booked, scheduled in the calendar, right? You're emailing on point. But you mentioned something in there about transparency, right? So to what extent are you being transparent with your clients?
To an extent that actually goes in their benefit, to be quite honest. Because at the end of the day here, it's, and people commit the mistake of believing that, if the client is not spending, then it's not working, or I need to get his budget up. I need to this, I need to that. And it's really just being transparent with your client and telling them maybe this campaign, this approach is not really working specifically for them, right? In some cases, maybe they want to, and this goes back to that setting expectations. Some clients, unfortunately, they have a $2,000 a month budget, $3,000 a month budget, and they want to target the entire state. And we've been through this, JC, right? You've gotten leads and they want to conquer the world. They want to capture the whole market. And let's say that you do, right? Let's say that you launch that account targeting California with a $2,000 a month budget for a plumber, let's say, right? The whole state of California, because he covers the whole state of California, 45 minutes response, great, it's great and everything, but he has a $2K budget. Then you launch the campaign with that budget. And then when they start searching for themselves, what's going to happen? They're not going to see themselves. And what's the first thing that they're going to do? They're going to call you or email you. They're already having second thoughts. And they're going to call you and tell you, buddy, I'm not seeing my ad. Is this really worth pursuing? And this is, I'm talking JC, and this is, we've both been through this after one day of the campaign launched, after 7 days, after 3 days. Now, obviously, we can't work with that as the account manager. But what's the real problem here, JC? What was the original problem? The transparency was not there because we just wanted to say yes to the client. We were afraid to say no, or to being consultants. That's really the word here, consultants. And I want you to take that word and please write it down. Yes, please do. Consultant. People forget that, and people think that they are their Google Ads account manager, they are their Bing Ads account manager, their SEO guy, they're their GMB manager, they're their CRM guy, whatever. No, at the end of the day, you are a consultant and you're supposed to work on your client's benefit, right? So if you ask me up to what point are you transparent in any way that can benefit my client, I will be brutally honest. Absolutely.
I always like to say, and I think maybe we even did some emails like this way back in the day when we were working together. In that first sentence of your email, like be very blunt, right? Either one, things are great and I want you to know things are great, or things are bad and I want you to know that I know things are bad, right? Like it's straight up, right? Because it's not you're not going to hide it, right? Like either the phone's ringing or it's not. Either they're booking appointments or they're not, right? And so the more transparent you can be, I think it shows. Well, then it allows you to now attack that transparency, right? It then allows you to go,
tell me something, for example. You get a lot of leads from clients that are working currently with another agency, and sometimes they share with you the report that the agency sends them, right? That happens all the time. I know that happens. How many times do you see that people don't put data that should be there, like conversions, like,
All the time.
or they exclude some terms just because maybe they charge a percentage of their spend and maybe they don't want that keyword to show there because it's, how many times do you see that? And
All the time.
unfortunately, man, we live in an industry that there's a fine line between being a very good guy and being a very bad guy, for not putting different words.
Yeah.
And unfortunately it happens, and it's our job, right? And that's why we're here. And it's our job to make that world better, make clients believe in this source of income and source of or channel of distribution for them.
Yep.
Yeah. Just like it was back in 2002, 2005, you know what I mean?
That's amazing. So let me ask you this, and I'm 100% aligned. So we got a client today. I had one personally. You got to, when I talk to clients nowadays, it's not good. Normally, nobody calls me. I was like, JC, I love life. Your skids are. I mean, it happens every once in a while, but not as much as I would love. Today, the client's super frustrated, right? And you get this, I'm sure, 75 clients, maybe 5%, maybe 1%, 2%, but there's a percentage of clients that are not excited. They're not happy.
Of course.
So what are some of the things that, one, like, how do you handle those calls, right? And then number two, what are some kind of, I guess it's reactive because you already know they're upset, but like some proactive things that you're doing to get you ready for the next call or for the next thing or whatever the case may be?
Yeah. Well, I would say, first of all, is take control of the call. Whenever there is an unsatisfied client, they are going back to fine lines. They are always very, very close and very much between, all right, I'm going to give this guy a second chance, or I'm really not digging this guy. Right? There's a very, very small, fine line when they are reaching out to you concerned or unsatisfied. So really taking control of the call is very important. For example, if a client is reaching out to you with an email saying that the cost per lead is too high, sometimes they include it in the subject, and the subject is the body of the email, right?
That's right. Yeah.
It happens. A couple of those. That is really, and people don't believe it, but that's really a test, you see. They send that and they're like, let's see how quickly this guy answers, because the quicker he answers, the most interested he is, the more interested he will be about spending much more money on this, right? So that's first, right? Make sure that you take control. Second, before getting to that point of, let's say I set up the expectation right? And I told them in 3 months, this is where we're going to be getting. You're potentially going to be getting this cost per lead. Potentially, never write anything in stone, guys. Never do, please.
Right.
But let's say we don't get there. And by that time, I would have communicated to the client throughout those 3 months for sure why we're not trending in that direction. And I would be completely honest in saying if we need to pivot at some point, whether that is strategy wise within the same channel, maybe it's a different campaign type and same Google ads, maybe cost per lead in Google has been very high for 3 months. Maybe it's too competitive in Google. Maybe you should think about putting that money on Bing instead. Maybe that same money on Bing is going to get you half the cost per lead. And maybe where you're capturing 20% of the market in Google with that budget, you're going to capture 90% in Bing, and you're going to be the monster in that channel. Yep. Right? So that's part of it. And I would say self-awareness is the most important thing, and being able to not let the client bring something up before you acknowledge it. I'm a type of guy, and this is kind of a joke. When I'm a very funny guy, you guys might not see it right now, but I'm a very funny guy. And one of the things that me and my cousins, like, we're very, very like that, very easygoing, very friendly. We smile all the time. And part of the things that made me be a very funny guy in groups and with people, something I learned is when we go to people, don't be afraid of pointing out your flaws, because when they point it out, Hey, I already said it, bro. Let's
Right.
take the same thing to the client. Before the
Mm.
client points out that you're doing something bad, maybe you're doing it bad. Just point it out. Of course, don't be neglective with your client and say, yeah, I was just doing it wrong. Say a strategy and a reasoning why you were thinking that that was the right move.
Yeah.
But just be honest, it didn't work out. We tried
Yeah.
this
You can
out. It's
control
not
the narrative there, right? You can control the conversation, right?
absolutely. Because at the end of the day, who's the captain under control? It's you. The
Yeah.
client knows how to handle that lead, but they don't know how to bring that lead to the table.
Yeah. Yeah, it's your guy that says, since the email, my CPCs are way too high. I mean, if you point that out first, hey, look, CPCs are a little higher than what I really would like to have. And so here's something I did last week. It had this effect. Here's something I'm doing now. What's going on with you, man? How's things going in your world?
Exactly.
Well, and so that's awesome. Yeah, I like it. I like it. What you said right there, I want to highlight because I think it was like, I don't know if you got me thinking there. A frustrated email, the first thing that it's doing is testing your response time. If you respond very quickly, you covered a huge barrier there, right? Like, I'm not afraid of this conversation. I'm not like, there's no delay. I'm still working. I'm right here, baby. Let's go, and so
Maybe you got to elaborate a POA, a plan of action, but
yeah,
they should know that you're on it,
Yeah. 100%. I like it. I actually, in full transparency, I got an email literally 5 minutes before the call and I just marked it as unread. I didn't respond to it. But I did tell the guys, I was, hey, schedule a meeting, 5:00, which is
Okay.
in an hour. I was like, we're going to talk about this and then I'll email them. So I'm going to be like 2.5 hours behind, but I probably should have emailed them. I probably should have emailed them right away. So we'll see how that works out. Now, one thing about you that I really admired a lot, and I want to kind of draw the attention, is that people like yourself, you really care about this stuff. I mean, like, this is your hobby. I don't know if you're anything like me, but my wife gets annoyed. She's like, shut up. Like, stop talking to me about digital marketing and business and your stupid campaigns. Like, I don't even care that you lowered a CPC, like, you really care about this stuff. And that's got to play a huge impact into what you've been able to do and all this good stuff. So talk to me about like caring and how it plays a role in leading to action, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that the caring part came because it's money that I'm managing. Mm-hmm. So I've always been afraid of gambling, for example. I would never do it. But this is you're handling other people's money, right? And at the end of the day, that should be on top of your head the whole time. Some are bigger companies that have a 10% allocated for this, but some are smaller companies that they really depend on you, right? And this is really a budget that they took away from, I don't know, vacation in the Caribbean, right? For that year, because they wanted to get some leads going and get a better future for their children, right? And that's really what's always on my mind. I really believe that if I'm managing other people's money, I need to do it in a way that is transparent and it's something that I care about.
Yeah.
And a lot of things can be done to showcase this caring to a client. For example, we were talking right before the podcast about the weathers, right? And stuff like that, how crazy it is right now. Man, freaking Houston right now. One of the biggest markets for everything PPC related. And we know this for sure.
It's huge.
Houston, let's say Dallas overall, right? Dallas, Fort Worth, whatever the case may be, or Texas overall.
Huge market.
You're talking about a huge market. And the weather right now is non-precedent. Like, this is really, it hasn't been like this since I was reading the news, because obviously I manage a lot of home services, a lot of heating and cooling companies, and a lot of them are in Texas. And since 1949, this weather hasn't been recorded like this. Can you believe that?
70 years.
70 freaking years, JC. I haven't been around for 70 years.
Joe Biden took presidency, so global warming he's already taken care of it.
Of course. Yeah.
1 month. He solved it.
Solved. So And at the end of the day, man, you get a client that is an HVAC guy, or it's a plumber guy, or it's a
Mhm.
locksmith, or is a restoration company, and you have a client in Texas. The first thing that should be popping in your head should be, can this guy work and serve people right now? Why? Have you seen
Yeah.
how many crashes and accidents there has been in Texas? Not because they don't know, not because they're bad. It's just because they're not ready for these weathers, right? They're not ready for these storms and this snow. So the first thing is, can my guy move his trucks? So
Yeah.
should I? I'm gonna call this guy, see if he can work right now. If he can move his works, if he is at 50% capacity,
Yeah.
he's at 80%, maybe we need to reduce the budget, or maybe let's look at the opposite side. Your HVAC guy in Texas right now is shoulder season. Right now, HVAC is very dead. Right, leads are very low. Should be right, very low in Texas. But guess what? Right now, non-president, you're looking at HVAC furnace leads going crazy high
Crazy.
in Texas. Why? They are not ready for these weathers. They need their furnace fixed, and they haven't needed that for God knows how long.
Yeah.
So caring is really on top of my head, and I think that really makes my clients stay, and that really makes my clients try to stick to me, right, as
Mhm.
opposed to going for another guy.
Kind of understanding their birthdays. I mean, I like, even writing down like the names of their kids or their spouse, and then say, hey, how was Georgia doing? How's little Tommy doing? So on and so forth. I mean, it goes a huge ways. I mean, right now, budget, I mean, it's not even about pausing accounts, it's about reallocating budget. Because if you're a roofer, you're not working this week, but maybe next week, dude,
Oh
next week
yeah,
there's traffic's heavy next week. Like every roofing company from the Midwest is going to be going to Texas to work for the next 2 months. And
absolutely.
so it's just about reallocating those funds. But like what you said, it's not being a robot. It's about actually caring about your clients and trying to think, okay, what's going on right now with the situation, and how do we overcome it, right?
Yeah, that's what machines won't give you, right? That human touch, that self-awareness, right? Machines will
Yeah.
never be self-aware.
Yeah. I love it, bro. I love it, bro. What else you got for us?
Well, bonus point. We've been talking about things for account managers to make their clients stick to them, right?
Yep.
Just to summarize them, I would say, make good use of your Google Calendar, make the
Mm-hmm.
best out of it. Make sure that you're, even things that you don't require communication, just for the sake of your time management, so you can get to 75 clients and they don't cancel. Mark what you're doing, make sure that you stick to that. There are a lot of techniques, like there's the Pomodoro technique and stuff like that people use,
Mm-hmm.
right, for time management. Do whatever suits you. Be on top of your email always. Let that be the first and the easiest way of communicating with your clients, because
Yeah.
that's the way that you can be best responsive without getting so much stress. And take control of your calls, right? And care about your clients, and never be afraid to just be honest and be transparent. And
Yeah.
bonus, I just want to bring on the customer side, right? We want to make sure that these relationships are fruitful and they stick together. Sometimes things or mistakes will happen, right? And this is me speaking to those customers, those clients. Mistakes will happen. It's just a matter of understanding that these mistakes will happen. Of course, getting to that common ground, common agreement of how to fix that problem, how to make it better. But I would always say, be open, be helpful with your account managers. They are your consultants. They need
Yeah.
information from you. You are the expert in your business. So they rely a lot on what you know. And never be afraid to share something that really changed your business perspective or your business experience, because that might be a difference maker for a campaign or approach that your consultant is doing.
Yeah.
And I would say, be always realistic. Going back to the example that we were talking about, small budget, trying to conquer the world. Um, if your consultant is trying to deliver a message to you that maybe you need to go after the lowest hanging fruit, then, maybe it's the right decision, and then you scale up from there. And yeah, I was actually, during this call, man, it kept coming into my head. You know what? I still remember that analogy that you told about the taxi. Remember about the taxi and the different
The levels of service.
the levels of service for a taxi.
Yeah.
And
I still do those analogy today.
And that would perfectly apply today, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing the ordinary. A lot of people are maintaining a steady budget during these times, even with what's going on with the pandemic, the elections, the weather, whatever the case may be. And they're not looking at the big picture. And I would say, take that bar higher, care more, investigate, learn, read the news. It's important. I don't do it that much or that often, but I got my wife, and she's so knowledgeable, man. She reads the news so much. So she's really the one that delivers the message to me. But I would strongly suggest those things. Yeah. That's pretty much all I have, man.
I love it, bro. This is perfect, man. Those of you that are listening, this is someone who's absolutely crushing it when it comes to service, when it comes to account management, when it comes to scalability, right? I'm excited for what you're doing and your career and where you've been heading, dude. It's fun. I'm excited that we've been able to keep in touch and stay headstrong. Funny story, Sebastian actually, how do I frame this? So Sebastian and I have a love-hate relationship simply because one day I offered him a job to be on my team, to come work for me. And I recruited the junk on it, right? Just recruited the crap out of him.
You took me out for lunch and everything.
I think I took you out for lunch.
I want to say the whole 9 yards.
I want to say bought you a Valentine's Day gift, I wanted this guy so badly to be on my team. And Derek Hooker was one of the other leaders, and you went to work with him. I was just
Derek got the flow, man. Derek got the flow. What can I say?
He's just cool. Derek's just a cool dude.
He got the swag.
It's hard to beat him. Brother, it's been fun. It's been exciting. I appreciate it. Anything we can do in the future, definitely let me know, and we'll keep it rolling. All right?
All right, brother.
Have a good one. Ciao.
Take care, bro.